just see what happens.
Okay, for the sake of time, it being 6:03, I'll start the meeting. Just to let you know up front, this is being recorded solely for the purpose of putting on the internet, on our website for people who couldn't make it, and this way they can watch it at home and reach out with any questions. Camera's always on me and the screen, and the microphone is live. All right, we'll start with introductions. I am Robert Garski. I'm the Director of Public Works for New London. We'll go to Brad.
I'm Brad Warner with McMahon, the project engineer, the consulting engineer that the city's hired. I'm Mike Finch, water supervisor with New London Utilities, and we're doing this project jointly with the city. So,
I'm John Hess, I'm the council president, and I'm a District 2 alderman.
Robert himself is district alderman.
All right. So on the agenda today, we'll go over project summary, project timeline, detour routes and access to properties during construction, sanitary sewer lateral replacement, assessments and public hearing, water lateral replacements and assessments, mini storm and sump pumps, service walks, tree, garbage, and what's happening with the reconstruction streetwise. If you could jot down your questions, we'll try to save those all for the end. Hopefully we can get through this. If you don't have anything to jot it down on and you think you're going to forget it, just raise your hand and we'll address it at that time. So project summary. We're replacing the sanitary main on Oshkosh Street from Wolf River Avenue to Pershing Street. The water main will be replaced from Wolf River to Jennings. The southern half has already been replaced. They have a little work to do up by Robin, but that's what they have for main. Replacement of sanitary sewer laterals that are not to code. Replacement of water service laterals that are lead. There's also reconstruction of the storm sewer inlets, leads, manhole structures. There will be an addition of a mini storm going in to pick up a lot of the sump pumps that we have, especially on the southern end. That one will be more behind the curb versus direct tap into the storm main. There's also reconstruction of the road base and 2 lifts of asphalt equaling 4.5 inches upon completion. New curb and gutter, new sidewalk sections. That doesn't mean new sidewalk is going in, only where there's sidewalk now. There will be sidewalk replacement in those areas. There's no additional sidewalk being added. That's one that kind of got mixed up and I had a lot of calls on, so no additional sidewalk, just fixing what is out there now. There's also new driveway aprons for every driveway that is on Oshkosh Street. Project timeline. So kind of didn't have anything to hang up this long face. So right here we have Wolf River Avenue all the way down to Pershing Street. So they'll start out at the low end down at Wolf River. Their projected timeline is starting anywhere from the beginning to middle of March. That's the schedule they kind of submitted right now. Of course, weather can really play a factor in that. So they'll start with the sanitary main. They'll bring the sanitary main all the way up to and stop just short of Washington Street. Then they'll come back and do the water main. They'll start at Wolf River and they'll carry that up to that stop point just before Washington Street. We want to leave Washington open until school is out. That is the goal there. So then, that's expected to go through, let's see, probably mid-April. And then when they switch over to laterals, that will run probably until the May, first week of May time frame. Once they're complete with their laterals, they'll switch to storm. That's where you'll see a lot more happening in the intersections. They're going to be taking out the existing structures, bringing in new leads, reconstructing the manhole structures over the storm, and that's a large storm. It's 48 inches on that northern end. So to rebuild those, it's time consuming. They expect to do that end of April, beginning of May. From there, street grading will take place first, second week of May, as they have it set right now. Usually that will take 2 to 3 weeks. So they'll be ripping out all the curb and gutter, the road surface, taking it down to 1 foot below what existing grade will be. Then they will put in fabric, the geogrid, and then bring a full foot of road material in for the base to get it ready for asphalt. So while they're doing that, getting everything prepped to extent, that puts us, let's see, right around the beginning of June. They'll start the flat work, so that's curb and gutter will go in first. They'll be working on sections of sidewalk that need replacing. Then they'll, once that curb cures out, they'll work on driveway aprons. During that time frame, so that's all the middle of June area, during that stretch of time, see as how that's a secondary contractor or a subcontractor, they will skip over the Washington Street intersection and begin the sanitary main, working their way to the south. Their plan is to carry that all the way down and then come back and do the water and take that up to Jennings. Now this construction, getting a little dry. This construction isn't a full blown up area, so it won't be like the whole road is inaccessible while they're doing that main work. It's more of a staying in one trench, either cutting to define their dig area or milling that area to try to keep that all contained and not have the street blowing up to where people are having trouble getting to their driveways. So during that time, they'll be running that while this street work is being done down on this side in phase 1. They're hoping that after school, they can come back, do all the work in Washington, there you are, complete all the utility and stormwater, and that way they can continue with their curb and gutter and get that pretty much set and ready for asphalt. So when they start with binder down here, they'll be able to pave that intersection in. So this phase 1, we're hoping will be complete-ish by 4th of July, around that time frame, according to their schedule, weather dependent. So, where are we at? Oh yeah, July. So they'll be doing, as soon as they're done running those 2 mains, They'll have a lateral crew in working. At the same time, they'll be working on the stormwater. That's where this area, hopefully by then, phase 1 is done. We're on to phase 2. That's where you'll start to see these intersections blowing up like you saw in this first stage. So all the work will happen just like it did in the first phase. Hoping to have like driveways and aprons worked on through August. Paving the second phase by September, the middle of September. If everything goes well and as planned and scheduled, which hardly ever happens with road construction, but if it does, we're looking at the beginning of October for completion of the project. Detours for the project, Oshkosh will be barricaded and signed as to be closed to through traffic. This is for all your daily people that use that as a cut through to get through. It will be closed to through traffic. The main detour will be around from Pershing to Wyman to Wolf River and reverse order for southbound traffic. For residents, we're asking that, especially in that construction phase, during any of it, that you're utilizing the first side street as ingress and egress to your driveway. Not using it as a travel lane. I realize some are close to the end or whatever, you have a block to go. It's not like a police thing, it's just asking, because once the street starts getting worked up, there's chance of dealing with dust and everything else if we have a dry year. So just trying to keep that in check too. Assessments. So for this project, there will be no assessments for any sidewalk work that is done. Any curb and gutter that is placed, which is all brand new through the whole project. Sanitary and water main, there is no assessment for the mains. No assessment for the storm main, the inlets, the inlet leads. No assessment for any mini storm that is put into the right-of-way line. Any of the roadway components, any of the fabric, the geogrid, the gravel, the asphalt, there is no assessment for that. And the driveway aprons. Everyone will have a new concrete driveway apron that will not be assessed. Sanitary sewer laterals. During this project, the sanitary sewer main will be replaced on Oshkosh Street from Wolf River Avenue to Pershing Street per city ordinance 11.02. Sub 1, all laterals connected to a new main must be compliant with current building codes or it must be replaced. All of the sanitary sewer laterals along Oshkosh Street were televised, showing the condition of your lateral. Non-PVC laterals showed signs of cracking, joint failure, root intrusion, water infiltration. Other reasons for this replacement, besides municipal code, is these sanitary laterals, once sealed, will keep all of this clear groundwater, clean water from entering the sanitary system and having to go through the treatment process, which every day gets more and more expensive, especially with the chemicals that we have to do down at the plant. It's also the fact that we're getting a $2 million grant to do all this road work all this new curb and gutter, everything. And we'd hate to have lateral issues or any type of utility issues down the road and have to cut up a brand new street that we're hoping lasts a very long time. Here are some clips that I took from some of the lateral inspections. You can see a leaking lateral and how the incrustations start forming from water intrusion. This is natural mineral deposits that happen over a long period of time of this clean water coming in. Here you're looking at a blockage of roots, a larger root coming in. This is on a concrete. Here is one that you can see is just launched just from the main, starting at the lateral. This one actually changes a couple times in material, but the corrosion that happens in this cast iron pipe and the fact that when it's corroded this bad, it takes very little to bust through it from the outside. Where am I at? There. Here's another one. This one's 45% blocked with roots. You can also see some starting on this joint. This one is a clay example. Here's another one that is not only has this buildup, but also roots coming from the other side, 45% blocked. So sanitary sewer laterals, the city will be changing out all laterals in the road right of way that are not to code. Property owners will be assessed this cost. If we find that the lateral on your private property is compliant with current building codes, PVC pipe, for example, no replacement will be needed. If the lateral is not compliant, clay, cracked, concrete pipe, any of that, it will need to be replaced. You have two choices as that property owner for the portion that's on your private property. The one would be replace the lateral on your own with a certified contractor plumber within a designated time frame. You would get notification that we're getting close to doing the lateral, and then you would have 60 days to make the repair on the private side. Your option 2 would be to jump on with the city's replacement contractor, the contractor that will be out there doing all the main work, all the utility work for that matter, both sanitary, storm, and water. If you choose to use the city contractor for the replacement of your lateral from your property line to your house, that cost, plus the cost of the right-of-way portion, will be charged to you, and you can either pay that cost up front or pay the entire charge over time as an assessment. 10 years at 1%. The 10-year plan is proposed on the final assessment resolution. The final assessment resolution is a document that has to go through first the Board of Public Works, which it did, and now it will go to council, common council, on the 19th. I cannot say this is approved until the common council actually approves it. From past practice, this has never been turned down and it has always been offered, but I cannot tell you right now it's a guarantee until they do that, if they do that, on the 19th. If you plan on hiring somebody else, that is the portion where I said you'd have to line it up and you'd have that 60 days to make that repair to your private portion. Here's an illustration of sanitary main, sanitary lateral that is within the right-of-way. If you have sidewalk, you can pretty much state that the back of sidewalk is close to the right-of-way line. If you do not have sidewalk, it is generally anywhere from 11 to 13 feet from back of curb in towards the property. Segment 2 would be from that right-of-way line to your house. Engineer's report. We have a bid price from the contractor, so we know we have an estimated cost only. Page 4 kind of talks about the right-of-way lateral versus the private portion of the lateral, kind of like I illustrated in that last slide. The engineer's report on page 5 talks about right-of-way costs. The estimated sanitary lateral assessment for lateral work in the city right-of-way or easement. The cost includes all construction, administrative, legal, engineering, and contingency costs required to provide a new lateral to the right-of-way line or easement line in conformance with the City of New London standards. The cost shown is an estimate for a new 4-inch lateral excavated to the right-of-way. The final assessment shall be equal or lower than the amount shown in bold 6,418. The reason why we did open trench method in the right-of-way is because this is the most expensive cost form of getting your lateral replaced. And you're saying, what? Why are you doing the most expensive way? It's not saying that every lateral will be done this way. In some instances, we have no choice but to go this route. And if that's the route we take to do that, that is the estimated cost to repair or replace that section of lateral. There are other methods, and everything will be done as we go down the street in the method we'll use to repair that. This is done solely for the purpose, if I put $4,000 on here and we run into a bad stretch where we're excavating a bunch of them and the price goes higher, one, it's never good. Well, it's never good delivering this news to begin with, but it's not good news if I'm saying 4,000 and I come back and say, well, I have to go through a 3-month process again to do all the paperwork to move that assessment limit up to the $5,000 or $6,000. And that's why it is put in this way. So what happens with the right-of-way portion is every lateral that is replaced, if it's not to code, will be documented on method on how it's done. We add up all the footage all the way down the street, and we take that total cost and it gets divided by how many laterals we do. Otherwise, there would be, for instance, this main mostly runs, well, right now there's 2 mains, we're getting rid of one, but we'll keep it on the east side of the road. So it would not be fair to assess people on the west side a lot more than the people on the right side or on the east side, just because of where the sanitary main is. Usually, in all instances, the sanitary main runs down the center of the street for that reason. The reason why we are not changing any of that on this is the cost to replace that 48-inch storm main would add another $750,000 to this project. So We are keeping it in the track it's in on the right side. We're making the adjustments in elevation so we can make that crossing where we need to, around or over or under, it all depends on where we're at, to get to that side to make the connection of the lateral. Private side. So there's three methods. We have the lining method. So this would be from your right-of-way line into your house. There's a setup charge for that lining. The 4-inch cleanout is placed at the right-of-way so they can go in with their equipment, clean your existing lateral, and then bring in the liner through that same cleanout. They expand it, it cures in place, and there's very little work to be done inside. That is a cost estimated at a 30-foot piece. And again, everybody's private side varies on the setback of your home from the right-of-way line. So over a 30-foot run is $32.65. This is based off of bid prices that we got from the contractor. There's also pipe bursting. So with pipe bursting, they actually pull a line through your existing line. They have to make a cut in your basement floor, or if you have a crawl space and have access to it, then of course there wouldn't be any cutting there, but they bring a cable through and they're able to pull that new line all the way into your basement and make the connections. Everything listed there are pretty much everything they need to do to complete the job for a 30-foot run. And that price came in at $38.98. There is also the excavating method. So this is where they trench right up to your house from the right-of-way line. In some instances, this is not, you were not able to do it simply for the fact that some of the houses have the lateral going under the driveway, under the apron, on an angle where you're taking out a lot. Might have a front porch that would conflict with it. And if you notice in there, pavement restoration beyond what we do for cutbacks to put in the road is not a covered item when it comes to excavating a lateral through a driveway. Neither is any if you have decorative curbing, if you have landscaping, stone, anything like that. If it's not moved by you and clear of the way, then that's something that you won't be able to put back because the contractor's not gonna move the stuff to the side to do the work. And it's not a covered cost. Plus you have, no matter how much they vibrate and try to compact that soil, I guarantee you in 2 years you'll have settlement. It's just how it works. So this is pretty much everything I went through, the methods. Open trench, cut, lay the pipe. You'll need to clear out anything in the way. You might lose trees if they're in the way. If you have any trees in the front, they're cutting roots, more than likely it'll damage those trees. Contractor will fill in the trench, but like I said, more than likely it will settle. Trenchless pipe bursting, pull a new pipe through the old one, cut and patch the hole in your floor around the new pipe that's installed. The lining, They add that clean out at the right of way. They run a camera down to identify the length they need. They do the cleaning of your lateral. They cut their liner to length. They bring it in, blow it up, it cures in place. It's just like an internal PVC pipe. Here's an example of an open trench method. This is a very clean one and not very deep, but that gives you the point of view of what you'd be looking at as far as an open trench. Here's an example of the liner. So they bring it in, blow it up, it cures in place. It's just like a PVC pipe within your old pipe or lateral. Here's an example of the pipe bursting. They attach this, bring it through. This head busts the pipe as it installs the new one. If you want to have the city's contractor do the work on your private side, then the waiver on the back must be filled out and returned to me down at the municipal building. You come into Public Works Department. We have a notary there. Also our clerk Nicole is a notary. So you come in, sign it, and you would be entered into the, you'd be noted on the spreadsheet that your lateral would be replaced by the contractor. Once the project is complete, that summary of everything that is done, I'll actually be sending a letter to everyone that will be assessed. It'll explain about the payment plan if approved and when your first payment would be due. And more than likely, being that this is finishing up in November or October, sorry, don't want to jinx it, that it would be due by January 31st of 2026. It always has to go, the assessment portion by law always has to go on the first portion of the payment of tax payment. If anybody is opposed, I cannot change anything. I am delivering you what municipal code and ordinance states for this project. You will have a chance to be heard at the public hearing that is Wednesday, February 19th at 6:30 during the Common Council meeting at City Hall. Mike, do you want to touch on?
Sure.
I kind of had Jason, he couldn't make it. We had trouble connecting today, so I just scrambled a bunch
I've been
down.
out of town for 2 days and super busy today, but I'm Mike with the water department. I've been here about 30 years. I've probably been in all your homes changing your meters and whatnot, but we're piggybacking with the city, and I'm not sure, do I have to have a separate form signed for the water line?
No.
Or will yours?
No,
Okay.
because the assessment goes through.
So most projects that we've ever done, we haven't really done jointly with the city, so we don't get the opportunity to give you an option to like get financed through the city for the replacement of our laterals. You would just have to pay when those were done. So this is a great thing for you guys because the DNR is actually making us get rid of all the lead services. I'm sure everybody's kind of hearing this in town because it's a big thing going on. Last year, we dug 60 lead services in town. This year we're digging 50 more, and we have to have them all gone within about 10 years, but we're being hugely proactive. But our city ordinance says immediately upon seeing a lead service that they have to be replaced. So the people that we're digging up right now do not have an opportunity to get financing like you guys do over 10 years to get your services replaced. So that's a great thing for you guys. Should you choose that option. We did send out letters to, I think like a year ago or whatever, as fast as we could, telling you that this project was going to go on. Utilities has also potholed all the services in town, except we did not do Oshkosh Street on purpose because we knew that this was going to get replaced and we did not want to waste resources. Actually, we had to rent their truck to go do this, and we actually sucked down on the water services in town and looked to see what kind of pipes they were, because the DNR required us to do that. So what we found when we did that, I would say about 20% of the houses, whatever the pipe is that's inside your house by your water meter, we know what every pipe in town is. We, for the last 20 years, have been recording that. So I have records of every house in town, what kind of pipe comes through the floor. However, when we did the potholing, we found about 20% what's in the ground is not what's in your house. So we have notified everybody that we know of that has a letter galvanized service, and they have been contacted by us, and some of you may be here or not, I'm not sure. So those people for sure have to have their service replaced. I don't even want to comment on how many might or might not be there, because if I say it, it could be the wrong thing. But I don't even want to say. I think it's positive, but I don't want to say that because if it isn't, it wouldn't look good. And our president or people that worked here before did not have any records. So, I mean, we have great records now, but it's just the way it was in the old days. So we will not know if you need to replace your lead, if you have a lead service till they physically see it. So you won't have an answer to that till like they dig down. And if it is, then it's going to have to go away. We will be notifying everybody about water shutdowns during the project for sure. I mean, is that okay for me to talk about that now, or is that okay?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So I would be the person that would be involved with this, and we highly work with the contractor to find out their schedules, because obviously we want to tell you when you're not going to have water, those kind of things, how long it's going to be. There's always some problems on projects where somebody snags a service that somebody didn't know was in the ground, because this is old. So there's like maybe up by the June, right over here, where that ball field is, there might have been houses there once upon a time. There might be old services there, and as they're digging and we have no idea they're there, all of a sudden kablawi, and we got a short. It's a short outage, but so you could have some short outages, hour or something, while they're figuring out what to do with it quick. The only other thing that I'm concerned about, and I'm not sure how deep the sewer is, if it's terribly deep or not for the sanitary, but in the first section from Wolf River up to, all the way to Jennings, really, if the sewer is deep, it's all 8-inch sand cast pipe. That's pipe that's put together with a leaded joint. It's not exactly the strongest joint in the world, and on Division Street when we did that, we had several mains that kind of collapsed because the sewer is so deep when they're digging the sewer in that the main's just kind of hanging in the air. And I don't know if that's going to happen. It depends on the dirt type, how deep it is, but that did happen there, and we had to hose off people temporarily with some temporary services on a couple of blocks. So that's possible that could happen, and if it does, we'll get you water as fast as we humanly possibly can. You might have to use that temporary service for a week or two till they get back to, can put the main and get your services connected. So that's just something that could happen. I'm not saying that will. We're just trying to explain that all. So, but for the most part, we know when we're going to shut your water off, when the intersection connections are the big days, when they have to tie into the side streets, and so we'll let you know, and our guys will be out there all the time. If you have any questions, you can call down there. And again, I can't tell you the cost either, because it's exactly the same as their situation. They aren't going to know what our cost for you for the water line. Well, first of all, let me back up a little bit. So the water line is different than the sewer line. The utility owns from the water main to the shutoff in your yard, which is called a curb stop, and you might see us turning. What's that?
There you go.
All right, you got her there. So So we own all that. We are replacing every service on the whole street, even up by Jennings Street where we put the new water main in a few years back. If anybody that lives between Jennings and Pershing, we put a brand new water main in there, but we did not run new service laterals to the property lines because we weren't doing a joint project and we were only tearing as little bit of the road up as we could, and we were able to hook onto your copper service. So now we're going to replace all those because the whole road's tore up, so why wouldn't we at least do that with the hope of not having any leaks? So if you do have a copper service, you are allowed to keep it, and you only own from the curb stop to the house. If you have a letter galvanized, it's automatic that it has to go, but if you have a copper service, you could request to have a poly service, because that's what we'll have, is plastic. So I would hate to tell you that copper is 100% fail-proof, because some of this stuff is from the 1960s through the, currently, up while we've been doing poly for about 10 or 15 years now, but just because you have a copper service doesn't mean it couldn't leak in the future. So some of these jobs, if they're doing the pipe bursting, they're gonna pull the sewer through, but they could pull a brand new water line right with that, and it's an inexpensive way to get a new service compared to digging to the house and such. So if you do want to have a new service no matter what, because they're pulling the sewer in, you could get a new plastic service run to your house, and obviously you have to pay for that. But then all your utilities are upgraded and your worries are pretty small of having problems in the future. So we have had copper services get pinholes in them. It's not real common. In Greenville, it was like the whole town had problems with this, and they had leaks everywhere. It's got to do with the soil conditions, and we have not had, I'm just saying, we have not had any problems on Oshkosh Street, but that doesn't mean we couldn't have 5 in 2 years because they're old and all of a sudden it starts happening. So I'm just telling you that, just so you're aware, but you do not have to. Generally, they're pretty structurally sound. I'm not trying to scare you or anything like that. Just trying to let you know what your options are. So I hope, is that about all I need to do there, sir? All right, we'll talk about questions later if you have those.
Sump pumps and mini storms. So this is an example of what will be going in sections of Oshkosh Street. For sure, the southernmost section, especially from Jennings to Pershing, for sure this will be installed. As we kind of walked the job last fall, it was hard to identify who had sumps and who didn't. It was pretty obvious when you had a line coming out of the side that you have a sump pump. So we indicated those, and to be cost effective, it's where there were fewer, it's easier to hook directly into the main in order to provide that mini storm to the right-of-way line for your property. So with all this work going on, homeowners may experience increased running of their sump pumps after the lateral work is complete. What I talked about earlier about tightening up everything, keeping clear water out of the treatment plant, a lot of times, well, not a lot of times, sometimes when you're tightening up all these lines, that groundwater, which always seeped in over all these years, is now sitting there looking for a place to go. If a resident does not have a sump pump, they may experience water on their basement floors, as many older homes commonly had their drain tile connected directly or indirectly to their sanitary line, which is a plumbing code violation. I'm putting this on there. I don't know through televising if any of them are this way, but there could be some in that older section that are set up like this. And once you have that interior portion replaced all the way out to the right-of-way line, that'll tighten up a lot of things and not allow that groundwater to enter the sanitary system. If you think you might be in that situation and down the road you think you will put in a sump pump to alleviate it, please let us know as soon as possible. We will supply a mini storm to your property line in anticipation for this sump pump being put in. Because once this project is in, running water from a sump pump to the street will no longer be allowed. You have to either run it in your front yard, or like a lot of these that are coming through the curb will be hooked up in the construction process. Homes that have a sump pump discharge hose will receive a 4-inch diameter Schedule 40 PVC mini storm lateral that extends to the right-of-way. The typical depth of this is going to be 3 foot. Homes that have buried sump pump lines right now that discharge through a curb head will receive a 4-inch diameter Schedule 40 storm lateral extended to the right-of-way at that 3 foot depth. It will then have a riser that will come up and meet that line at whatever depth or grade it's at right now. If you had trouble with it freezing in the past because of how shallow it is, it would be the time to bury it down below frost line or down at that normal frost depth and hook up that way. Road construction. So I pretty much went over a lot of this as I was talking about schedule. After all the utility work's done, storm inlets, leads, manhole structures, roadway prep, removal of old curb and gutter, they're taking out the base, laying down the fabric geogrid, placing the new base, which will be a foot thick, and then they'll install the concrete curb and gutter. Your driveway aprons will be poured, backfilling behind the curb, topsoil will be placed, a 2 3/4 inch asphalt binder mat will be placed down for the road surface. Right now, I am hoping that we can wait for the surface mat until 2026. Everybody's saying to me, why would you want to do that? We're going to have all these manholes ramped, you're going to have lips at the driveways of 1 3/4 inches. But there is so much utility work at such a depth, even with the fabric and geogrid, the right thing to do would be to try to hold off, asphalt ramp these structures, which there will be a lot less of them, ramped at the butt joints of all the intersections that it meets, and come back and surface it before the 4th of July of 2026. Service walks. If you currently have a service walk, such as this one here, that goes from the sidewalk to the curb, these will be removed and not replaced. Terrace trees. Some have already been removed by NLU to move their electrical lines and poles. Any terrace tree, for the most part, will be taken down. A lot of them that are left there that weren't ash and already taken down are maple. Extremely destructive to curb and gutter, to sidewalk, and to the road surface because of the way their root base goes. That root base gets under that asphalt and it wreaks havoc on it. So those will be taken down. I hope to have these trees marked by next week. We are currently putting together a packet that anyone who wants a terrace tree will have a handout for you, and there will be a selection process of which trees to choose from. You'll be able to pick, and it will be planted in your terrace. Garbage. The goal is to keep the garbage collection at your driveway entrance. So I'm planning on having them come as early as possible so they're not in the way of the construction crews. There might be a time, and you will be notified. That's why it's important to have your information down if you haven't already. But I'll be reaching out if it changes by method of what is going on in your section. But the hope is that you'll have collection for the most part in front of your house on your normal collection day. Now it's time for questions.
Oh, no!
I just want to know if this entire document, this entire presentation is online.
This is why I have it being recorded right now.
All right.
I'm not the tech person at all. She just told me, make sure those red lights are on. And I gotta get them back to the office. I think she plans on uploading it tomorrow. It'll be on the front page of the New London website. I'll get to you. Go
All
ahead.
those costs that you were showing us before, are those all separate costs that we have to add up together, or is it one of the?
It is your right-of-way portion, so that first section I talked about, that could be up to 6,000, and then one of the others based off of your footage that you have from connection point at the right-of-way to your house.
Okay, so is that the one that you were talking about where we can have the city do it, or get a?
The city
private
contractor? Yes.
And then your charge is separate as well?
So, yeah, if you choose to go with a separate contractor, it's fully acceptable, but then you would not get the funding. So you would have to come up with the money right up front, but you can use whoever you want to put that in. It's your lateral that you own, and you can use any choices, but yes, if you have a lead service, or you want your service replaced, you would have to come up with an additional amount of money, and that depends on the type of method that they use to put the sewer in. So if they're using the pipe bursting method, it's cheaper. If they have to dig up to the yard, and some of this is all factored in with like driveways, with porches. You know, every situation is different, and it'd be up to the contractor to decide what he was going to do. So, but yes, that would be an addition.
So close overall guessing estimate, you're talking about this gonna cost us anywhere from 15 to 20 grand. I didn't know.
Probably looking at more like around 8 to 10, depending on your situation.
Unless it's the low, that's still a lot of money.
Well, they can't give you a number, so they're trying to give you a high number, so you're not mad if it's, you're
Right.
happier if it's lower.
Right, trying to
but
push it in.
if you have a bad situation, it could be high.
I'm just worried about my old trees I have in my yard. I have 3 huge old maples.
That is
I
on you.
don't- I don't use them.
That is on your property? If it's on your property,
You don't have to lose them. So the pipe bursting method or the lining method can be done in a way that doesn't disturb your front
Okay.
yard at all.
Okay, good, yeah, over 100 years.
And so there will be a what we call a trenchless method that will work for you. But as Robert explained to you, sometimes the pipe bursting method, depending on,
yeah, guys.
sorry. Sometimes with the pipe bursting method, depending upon your basement situation and how the pipe comes in, and things can make it difficult, so that liner is usually a really good option. They put a clean out, you know, right at the right-of-way line, and then they can line it right in to your house, and never have to get into your house.
Can that pipe burst method be used for cast iron or clay, or a combination that might be there?
They can bust through anything. Exactly.
Okay. I'm sorry, I'm hard of hearing now. Okay.
And then we forget.
So the question was, he has a multi-unit down towards the north end, and he was wondering about dumpster collection. Just like your driveways, during this whole construction, even if the road bed is out, there will be small ramps going to your driveway still. You still have access. The only time where it'll come into play is once the curb and gutter goes in and the apron. Of course, you can't drive over concrete they'll probably use standard 6-bag, so you're looking at a week. Other than that, they're gonna maintain access to your driveways as long as they're not working right in front of it during that time.
One question I got is if you've already replaced all the stuff in the house, because you had previous problems, and it's on your records, then you're good to go, right?
That's correct.
I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah.
So the question was, if your lateral is to code in either section, if it was previously replaced because of issues like this, if it's PVC, and you're from house to the main right now, the only assessment you'll get is the Y connection to the new main. If you're PVC all the way through right now.
You know, it's a lot of money you guys talking about. What are we paying property tax for?
That's exactly. I pay $4,000
It
a
is,
year.
and I wish I had a property tax bill in front of me to see which portion is actually allocated out of that full lump sum that is allocated towards public works and or the city portion. You have school, you have county, tech, so you have all these things coming out. We don't see that full amount, not even close. I know, well, go ahead. The wheel tax is for maintaining roadways. For instance, I have a 50-50 grant that I applied for a really bad section of North Street where the curb and gutter is, the asphalt's rutted so bad that the curb and gutter's standing up, and I mean, you could actually high center in the street. It's that bad. So I applied for a grant, and that other portion of the 50-50 will come out of that wheel tax money towards the completion of that project. Yes?
Will taxes be used just for roads, correct?
Correct.
Has it
Road,
been used for anything other than roads for the city?
everything,
SUVs for employees,
what's that?
SUVs leased for the employees, has the wheel tax been used for that?
No.
Okay. Where did the money come for the 4 SUVs that are being leased at $31,000 a year?
Yeah.
Well, the mayor told me it was coming from the wheel tax. Yeah.
The wheel
So
tax,
somebody clarify-
the wheel tax cannot pay for anything other than roads. And
And I had heard this from somebody else, and it was just a fact check for myself, I said 7,000 to lease a vehicle is too much. It should be at a referendum, is what I said, because that's my money for the roads.
And you're welcome to come to
And
any
I
council
go on the
meeting.
19th, and I'll bring it up
And,
again.
yep, on the
I just
19th.
like facts. Oh, yeah, that was another question.
Pardon me?
Doing a project.
Yeah, so let's say I want to get my own contractor, whatever you said, who is actually doing the work?
Right now, the bid has not gone through official award until the council meeting on the 19th, but PTS Contractors is the low bid for the project, so more than likely, I can't say for sure 100%, it has to be voted in, but PTS,
Where is BTS from?
Green Bay.
Did we ask any local plumbers?
There are local contractors that bid, yes.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Pretty much, my question is, where are they from? Not like these guys that did your Main Street.
And that was totally state and state let, state bid. Thank
It
you.
really was.
You don't want to
Yeah.
show like that.
I agree 100%.
And I'd rather see it, actually, as a taxpayer, pay more money to somebody local and get it done.
And I, being that this has $2 million worth of state funding, and it is state statute that we have to take low bid. As soon as I saw PTS was low bid, I asked around other communities, as did McMahon. They're familiar with working with them. They, everything I've heard about them is good, and I hope it's true, because after last year, it was a struggle.
I personally I've been doing municipal engineering as a consultant at McMahon for 35 years. And I've worked with PTS for 35 years. They are one of the better contractors in the area. We do have good local contractors too, you know, the Ingalls and the Don Parkers, they're great guys. I've worked with them my whole career too. So, yeah, we had those discussions, and if I felt for any reason, we do pre-qualify when we're going through the bidding process to try to vet out any contractors that we don't want before they even submit a bid. So
So
we do work out
if you
good.
get these guys and they don't pay out in a month or two, can you reject their contract from that point and get somebody else in?
That would be, it gets complicated once it's awarded, but again, they have requirements that they have to meet. The city does not have to pay them for work that's not satisfactory. There's lots of ways to motivate. You know, typically, again, with this particular contractor, I've never had any issues, so I would, you know,
Yeah, we have a separate engineer, and he's said exactly the same thing as what he's saying, is they've worked with him too and had very good luck, so.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, well, right now, so, well, Immels is a local contractor, and they've been doing a lot of the leads this winter. Right now, you might see them digging around town, and they have been trying to pull as many lead services as they can, and they do exactly the same thing as the pipe bursting, just in a smaller sense, where they'll pull a cable through the lead, as long as there isn't a kink in the pipe, because it's lead's really soft and it bends, and if there's a kink, they might not be able to get the cable through, which then they have to open trench it to the house, just like, you know, so every situation is different, but yes, they can try to do that. They'll come, yeah, they'll come in to run the cable through, they'll dig down by, well, so we already dug the line in from the water main to the curb stop, and then they're digging down at the curb stop, fishing the line through from the house to the thing, pulling it out of the pipe, then ripping the new pipe right through without tearing your yard up. So it can be done if they can get the cable.
I want to know if you're widening the roads or the sidewalks and how much of our property that we
The roadway is widening in a 2-block section. Anyone that's in that area of, it is from Beacon to Spring, it is increasing by 2 foot. It is all within the right-of-way, so there is no property lost. Everything from Pershing Street will remain in the same track all the way down until you get to Washington Street. At Washington Street, there is a huge jog, and that intersection will be centered within the road right-of-way, so there is no land lost. It is centered in the right-of-way, so you have 13 foot from back of curb to the right-of-way line on each side for that remainder. And then the section that was 31 foot, correct? Back to back? That was the section from Beacon on the north side of that intersection to Spring was 31 foot back to back. It is now gonna be 33 foot to match everything else. Well, I'll take that back. Washington to Pine is wider. And then it goes back down to 32 from Pine all the way till you get to Jennings. Once you get to Jennings, it is back up to that 37 foot range to Pershing. So that's the only changes as far as widening versus, everything else will be your standard. Well, a lot of, actually just about every residential district that they start building or want to plat has a 37 foot back-to-back layout. Yes, sir.
If you use the pipe first from inside, how big a hole do they have to punch in the basement?
So typically, depending on your situation, they cut about a 2 to 3 by 3 foot, hole in your floor. They wet saw it, to control the dust, and then they patch it all back in with concrete when they're all done.
Yes, sir.
My sewer and water line come on, I have a front porch. It comes out under that front porch street. How do they determine if they have to take that out to get everything done? 'Cause I know the line is bad. I had a couple of maple trees that I took down years ago, and I used to have my line cleaned out about every year and a half because it would start, the roots would get in it. So I know it's compromised. Are they gonna have to tear the whole shebang out, or can they do that liner thing without?
They can,
I mean, I don't want it to have the whole front porch tore off.
Right.
I mean, it's probably a 20-foot square, it goes in, that's the front entrance to my house.
and for everybody's certain circumstance, we'll be having that conversation if you sign up to be with the city contractor beforehand, explaining your options and why we would recommend going a certain way based on what you're facing, just like your scenario.
Should
With
we have a private meeting for that, or just a schedule of time to talk about it?
Yes, and that's why it's really important to get contact information, because as we're getting closer to that point, that's when we'll reach out, and if you're signed off on the waiver and you have that or you want the contractor hired by the city to do that work, then we'll have that discussion when we're getting to that point.
When you sign up for the program, that allows us to help you with the project. And as the water department said too, maybe you have a lead service. So maybe you have to replace both your water service and your sanitary service. Well, then we can look at it with you, up front and figure out pricing different ways and see what works out, to your best advantage. We want this to be as cost effective as we can for each of you to accomplish the goals that we're trying to accomplish. Now, the numbers that we put up there are really just very rudimentary when it comes to, I just assumed a certain length. But we can actually come out and calculate out a lot closer what that estimate would be based on the different methods and your unique situation. And we did that when we did downtown area. We went through with all the business owners and said, here, this is what we expect your cost to be. They knew what the plan was before the work was even done. So we're there to help you. That's the advantage of going with the program, is you get a lot of assistance.
So a few years back, we had that intersection, Oshkosh and Jennings, where the water main broke.
And earlier in that day, he mentioned about that being the line going. Earlier that day,
Is that last year when we had them two in the same day, or?
three actually.
Yeah,
It went up Oshkosh, then it went across on Jennings in front of our place. But the question I have is when sewer and water came out and fixed that up the next morning, they started changing all the lines over there to get everything back together. There was no road base or anything down like that. Is this going to be a heavy enough road for the bus traffic that goes down when it's all done and set? Is that taken into consideration? 12 inches of binders enough? Is there going to be a road base underneath that binding?
Yeah, it's 12 inches of road base on top of fabric and geogrid, so that acts as additional actual road base. And then you're putting on 2 3/4 inches of binder, letting it sit a year, hopefully, and then coming back in with 1 3/4 inches of surface layer of asphalt. So 4.5 can handle that type of, it's not considered daily traffic because it will be posted as not a truck route. There will be a sign on each side.
So they run the school
But
buses through there all the time.
school buses are,
Couldn't stay.
school buses can access that.
Can we add farm equipment too?
There's been a lot of discussion that I've had with Bob and about whether Oshkosh is a truck route or isn't a truck route. And I swear at one time I saw a sign that says it wasn't a truck route. Now I can't find any signs, so I don't know what happened to that. But is it a truck route or isn't it supposed to be a truck route?
So
'Cause
the
we
question
we
is
see
Oshkosh,
we see semis going up and down that street to service a school. We see heavy farm equipment going up and down that street.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I have a smartphone, but unfortunately I haven't been fast enough to record any of it, but it happens, and it happens pretty frequently.
Yeah.
so the question was, is or is not Oshkosh Street a truck route? It is not a truck route. It is listed as a collector street for traffic purposes, but it is not considered in our code as one of the heavy vehicle routes.
Will it be posted when this is all done? Will it be posted? And if we take pictures of somebody violating that, will they be held responsible? Can they get fined?
PD's the enforcers.
Okay, all right.
I will be putting a no truck route sign at Wolf River
Okay.
and at Pershing Street.
Okay.
Okay, good.
So with that, after the truck making it delivery,
See my camera ready yet?
Correct.
those trucks servicing schools are taking that road to service the schools, not just running on the road. And that's legal.
Correct. To service any building, school,
Right.
anything like that, those trucks can access that roadway. But as a cut-through street, just to get to Pershing or just to get to Wolf River, it cannot be used in that fashion.
So who wants to aren't considered heavy trucks then?
They are not.
But farm equipment is considered heavy equipment, right?
I would think so. I'm not the
And
official.
septic.
Septic
truck
haulers?
Haulers.
Kettles?
Yes, they should not be using
Good.
that
That'd be nice.
street. Because,
Yeah.
as we all know, everyone's hooked to service and not have a payment.
Yeah, that's the
Just
problem.
put a trail cam up.
Borrow some stops.
Yes, in the back. That construction was, or that discussion was brought up before. It was not moved on as far as parking on one side or the other. Yes, sir.
On the station of pipe and gravel piles and all that, are they gonna utilize the field here on the Washington Center instead of all the side access roads? That'd be a good idea.
that has been discussed.
Yeah, it hasn't been discussed. We actually have our pre-con on Monday, on the 17th, so we'll get a better read on what they're thinking as they proceed down the line and where they're gonna stage their stuff.
Will there be parking permits issues for people who can't park on the road, or will we every night be able to get in your driveway?
Yeah, if you don't have access to your driveway, the PD can run plates really easy. I will discuss it with them, but yeah, there'll either be permits issued, or if they want to make it simple is, hey, there's going to be people parked on the street because they cannot access their driveway, then it could be as simple as that. But I will definitely reach out to them and get an answer to that. Yes, sir. Oh, sorry.
So we just purchased our home, and I'm naive to a lot of this that's going on. So if we opted, if it's approved, to do like the city contractor, do the 10-year plan, how does that get billed to us? Is that like through New England Utilities? Is that through a separate?
No, if you go through that payment system, it comes as an assessment on your property taxes. So there'll be a line that says special assessment, and then that amount. Before you receive your tax bill, you'll receive a letter from me stating that it will have a breakdown of what your total cost was, and that that will be assessed towards the property. And then internally, they put that on the tax roll, and then you can come in and make that first payment by January 31st for however it divides up. So your total divided by 10, that would be what your first payment would be.
So and then we were to sell the house in 3-4 years, that goes along with that house in front, or we foot that bill then when we have to clean this up?
The title company makes note of that during that house sell transaction. Not really familiar on how the transfer goes.
So what?
Because I didn't buy this.
So what'll happen is, if you, let's say you take the 10-year plan, right? Year 5, you decide to sell, the full amount would be due, but they take it up the proceeds of the sale of your home. So whatever the balance was, right, it won't go to the next person,
So I emptied my savings to buy this house 5 months ago, then
Right.
I sell it 3-4 months, and I'm gonna lose a lot more money too.
well, it just means that it would, the cost of that would come out of the
I wonder why they
proceeds.
sold it.
What's that?
I said, now I know why they
Oh.
sold it.
Well, one thing is you are getting a benefit if you get a brand new sewer and water, which should be a huge selling
Yes.
point for somebody else to buy a home.
Will it increase the property value when I try to sell it, or no, not really?
I mean, it's worth more than it was before that, for sure.
Typically, it does, especially if you think of the fact that, look at the street now, look at what it's gonna be like, just from a, curb appeal standpoint, with a new street and everything else, that adds value to the home that you didn't, and most of it you didn't pay for, you do through property taxes and things, but the fact that the city was able to secure $2 million to go forward that project from outside of this community is awesome.
Well, thank you for answering the question.
Why is it something that